Hello, this is Talking Devils, your favourite Manchester United podcast, emergency convention podcast, it seems. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by, in my notes, my pre-prepared notes, it's Manchester United legend Paul Parker, but unfortunately, it's not Manchester United legend Paul Parker to talk over another difficult week at Manchester United. It's no less a legend, Dave Murphy. And before we get into everything we're about to talk about, Dave, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Good to get back on the show. I've had a bit of a sabbatical from doing the podcast, with a lot of moving parts over here. So yeah, good to get back on, and yeah, no better time than now.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have been saying that yesterday for sure. I don't know if anyone's been watching the podcast over the last couple of days, but we've been having postmortems all over the place. Paul Parker and Luke Steele, by the way, absolutely nailing everything in their observations of what went wrong against Brentford and what's been going wrong this season in general. If you're watching, please like and subscribe. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, feel free to get your comments in and questions as well, because we'll talk, try and get as many as we can in. If you're watching the replay, say hello. Feel free to comment. We do reply. Of course, what we're here to talk about is to commemorate the fact that two friends of the podcast, Paul Parker and Rafael da Silva, made their debuts on this day in 1991 and 2008, respectively. That's the big news today.
I'm glad we come on here to let people know that. So it's been a great show, and join us next week when we I don't know.
No, well, Dave. Okay, so I'm going to read the quotes as they were reported in the Times by a spokesperson for Sir Jim Ratcliffe. If the club is for sale, Jim is definitely a potential buyer. If something like this was possible, we would be interested in taking a view to long-term ownership. This is not about the money that has been spent or not spent. Jim is looking at what can be done now, and knowing how important the club is to the city, it feels the time is right for a reset. Dave, this follows the joke earlier in the day from Elon Musk, well, late last night for you, where Elon Musk had said he was going to put in an offer and then quickly retracted that. And then the talk from Michael Knighton over the last week or two that he was trying to put together a consortium, which, a lot of people have, had ifs and buts about. I've talked to Michael Knighton. We've had part of that interview on this podcast as well. It should be said that neither of these things are truly connected to this offer from Jim Ratcliffe. It's said that his offer to buy Chelsea earlier in the year was seen as a sort of calling card to tempt out United and see how willing they would be to negotiate an offer that was made, incidentally, before these other things made the press. United so far have declined to comment. I've had at least half a dozen DMs on social media today saying, do you have any news? What's going on? All that sort of stuff. I'll just say what I have been saying. Listen to the credible sources on this. Everyone is coming out saying that they've got information. This information is so big that, it came out via the Times and then the Athletic, because when information this big does come out, it comes out from the most credible of sources, and you really got to be careful what you listen to and what you absorb. I know everyone was getting excited with stuff like this, but it is important that you listen to the informed and credible people on it. Dave, the news was in response to claims earlier in the day that the Glazers were considering selling a minority stake, but Ratcliffe reportedly would be seeking full ownership. Firstly, getting on board with the minority stake. That was what was initially reported. But then he was saying that, he wants to take full control. That'd be his long-term aim with that. He's got a net worth. In fact, before I'll talk about net worth and everything like that, and Elon Musk's net worth and all that sort of stuff. I just want your reaction to the news. And not because it's Happy Raphael Day or National Paul Parker Day. So basically, yeah, as Rory says, the time has come. Did we ever think we'd see this day? Before we get onto that, just your reaction, your initial reaction to the news of Ratcliffe's intention to buy United.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank Elon Musk for his time at Manchester United. It was bit of a short tenure, okay. But it started last night at 10 o'clock California time when I was watching TV, and I think he's done a lot for the club in those 6 hours. And now, Jim Ratcliffe has come in, and listen, here's the thing. I mean, as United supporters, we get excited about the slightest thing these days because anything that is a positive for us as fans, it gets blown up on social media. Be it someone being linked to obviously now to Jim Ratcliffe coming out, and but the key word in there from a spokesman is if. There's no signs that Manchester United are going to sell. There's no signs that the Glazers are going to sell. I know there was. I also followed a report on social media last night throughout the night whereby. And I'm not into shares. I don't claim to know much about it, but it was pointed out by one of our followers, Dan, that Manchester United, stocks have been steadily, being exchanged back and forth on the stock exchange over the past couple of months. But there was a massive buy-in within the last week, and it kind of coincided with Tesla dumping a load of shares as well, and that's where the whole Elon Musk thing came in. But if you take away the Elon Musk thing, the shares were still purchased in large bulk, which was very, very unusual for Manchester United, considering it's been pretty flat over the past couple of months. So I mean, I don't want to get too excited because his spokesman kept mentioning the word if, and that's the biggest thing here. If I mean, the Glazers can just come out and say no, we don't have any intentions of selling. That said, you hit the nail on the head. Look for the reliable sources. The large buying of the stock is a sign that something is different. But if we got someone like Jim Ratcliffe in, I mean, anything is better than what we currently have, right? He's a Manchester United supporter. It doesn't really mean a lot, though, if I'm being honest. Because these are businessmen. They think with their head, not with their heart. That's why they're very successful. I'd be excited to see anyone in there except the Glazer. So for me, it was a nice welcome relief. I mean, I went to bed last night thinking Elon Musk was buying, so then I woke up and Jim Ratcliffe is. So I've had an okay 12 hours, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get overly excited. I don't want to put a dampener on it, but we were buying Frankie de Jong back in the end of May. It's now August and we still don't have him. Manchester United don't do things the easy way. They torture us both on the pitch and off the pitch these days. So it'll be very welcoming for me, all right. But I'm like I said, you got to read between the lines, and if the spokesman saying if they want to sell, the only thing I didn't know is that Manchester United still haven't said anything, and in the past they've been pretty quick to deny any of this. As Rory just said, the Glazers have said no comment, which speaks a lot more than saying we aren't selling. That's the point I'm making, is that in the past they've always been quick to put the note out there. No, we don't have any intentions of selling. We don't have to go over how bad things are at the club. We don't have to explain to people that these sponsorship deals are starting to dwindle away. They're being hit with, my understanding is if they don't make top four in Champions League this year, 30% now comes off the sponsorship deal from Adidas. It's something like that. So it's all starting to unravel for them. And you're at that, I think we're at that point with the Glazers where they're going, okay, I paid $100 for a piece of stock. It's now at $1,000. Do I sell it now? Or when it drops to 900 now, I'm like, oh my God, I'll hold on a little bit more. These guys won't hold on to this club if it starts to lose serious value. They'll still get a mega payday. Let's be honest here. They haven't put a dime of their own money in there. Everything they get out of it will go to them. I don't really care about that part. It will sting, but I don't really care. But I think it's a very pivotal time right now, and the signs are that something is building up in the background. So.
Yeah, like Rory said, like you said earlier, the no comment thing is pretty telling. Maybe they're just waiting to see how the land lies before they make a comment, because you don't make a knee-jerk reaction to something that's this seismic, I guess. And yeah, it's definitely pinch of salt territory, just as it was with the Elon Musk thing. I woke up to that when it just happened, and like I was still scrolling and saying what the hell's going on. And this was like 5:30 this morning.
By the time you finished scrolling, we had a new owner.
Well, by the time I finished scrolling, he'd said I was only joking. And then by the time I'd finished scrolling that, he said, but if I was going to buy someone, it'd be nice. So, all right, Elon, you know. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, it's a difficult thing. And the inclination of, you know, will they sell, that kind of thing, it's been gathering traction really only because of the way that the supporter base has been putting pressure on that, you know, the protest groups and everything. Nothing else. Everyone might want to be sort of saying the things, and like everyone wants to take credit for it, and everyone wants to say that they've got information. Just follow the path. Like, obviously, there's been fan protests, and the greater that those protests get, and the more pressure that they've put on, and the more it seems like the various support groups are putting pressure on the Glazers. It's kind of like a situation where they know that they're pressured into spending money that the club doesn't have, and that they don't have to put in it. So they're at that juncture. Is it worth persevering with this for the tens of millions that we'll be able to get out in dividends, when we could just cash in the entire asset now to the tune of still around 6 billion, while United's value is absurdly high in you know, if Chelsea can sell for 4 billion, they'll be looking and saying we can put a cap on United at 6 billion and probably still get it, even in this world.
And that's the thing that we, you know, I've seen a lot of different quotes out there, and people saying, well, you know, on the stock exchange, Manchester United is only worth 2 billion. I mean, that's only a guidance, really. You know, right now with the share value, when you have a commodity that's bringing in 500 to 600 million a year, you're really, you know, your stock price is only going to give you a guidance of what the club is actually worth. And I do believe that Chelsea sold for just under 4 billion. You know, Manchester United will definitely be north of 5 billion. And that's the part that concerns me still. You know, really does. Is that he, you know, Jim Ratcliffe, we all know he's worth, I believe, in the region of 13, 14 billion. Is that the correct number?
Yeah.
And we all know that that's not what he has in the bank. You know, it's just basically what his net worth is if he was to liquidize a lot of his, you know, obviously everything, which is never the case. So it's going to take a large effort from him and obviously a lot of his buddies to put this together. But that said, if they put 4 billion together, you know, to try and buy Chelsea, I don't know, these guys, an extra 2 billion is not going to be much of a concern to them. I just don't think it's going to be him by himself.
Yeah.
I think there will be some kind of consortium behind him.
Yeah. So loads of comments coming in, guys. I'm going to get to them now. Richard says, good evening. Good evening, Richard. Hope you're well. Mike, something's definitely brewing. Ratcliffe's deliberately late bid for Chelsea was surely inflexing. Yeah, that we talked about that earlier. It seems.
And let me just jump in there. Sorry, Wayne. You know, when Jim Ratcliffe made a bid for Chelsea, I thought it was bizarre. I really did. I thought it was bizarre. And I want to follow. You know, I think Michael's hit the nail on the head there. Was it him just telling people out there, "Hey, I've got a shitload of cash"? You know, he you know, he's not stupid. He's a United supporter. He sees what's going on at the club. I just found it bizarre that he bid for Chelsea kind of after the bidding was kind of done. You know, yeah, it is something that I definitely thought about what Michael said there. It's just, you know, why would Radcliffe do that right at the very end? It didn't make any sense to me, and it could have been the fact that he was just showing people his wallet. You know.
Yeah. For sure. Rory says, take into account Chelsea was sold as European champions, good stadium and facilities, great training ground and playing squad, and then there's United. Yeah, I mean, I still think that the
No, it's a valid point, but you know, I'd counter that. Well, Leicester City, you know, spent 250 million on I think on their facilities, which are far superior to Manchester United. If you look at Carrington versus that, but if both were being sold, you know, who's going to be, you know, the more popular choice to buy? It's going to be Manchester United. Unfortunately, we're selling a brand, not so much as a football club. That's the unfortunate part. Chelsea have a lot of appeal. Yep, European champions. They're in London. You know, there's a lot of appeal there, but it's like Coca-Cola and you know, Joca-Cola that you can buy in Walmart at the end of the day. So.
David, strong rumours that 2X players are involved with him. Yeah, we'll wait and see before we comment on that. Will Wait says, crossing all my fingers right now. Well, you know, I don't know how that'll look, but pretty good. A load of comments coming in from Suvik. So I hope I pronounced that right, Suvik. Would literally buy anyone's island off to be in Manchester now and meet up with fellow Mancunians and cry. Wayne and Dave, I'm from India, 24-year-old, and I've been living and breathing United all my life. Thought Ronaldo coming back was good. This could be the best thing I've heard in my life. Feel like hugging and crying. We'll be back. The romance of Manchester is best in the world, sooner rather than later. And yeah, absolutely. I agree with all that sentiment there. Ryan says, so if this happens, who does he put in charge of football matters? New football director, you would think, completely separate football and commercial. Dave, it's an interesting comment. I'm going to say probably the most aggravating thing that people are going to listen to on this thing. I still don't know how much I want to start piling in on Murta and on Richard Arnold at this point. I really don't. I don't feel comfortable doing it because I still think that a lot of people aren't looking at the club's financial balance sheet, and all the money that they've got spare is their earmarked for De Jong. That's blatantly obvious, and that's not their fault. That's the ownership model, and I think they've basically backed Ten Hag in what he's wanted to do so far. We don't know anything about this merry-go-round of transfer rumours until we see a player come in. I'm still hesitant. I mean, the longer the window goes on, the more inclined you are to think it's a bit of a circus still. But it is their first window. I've only heard good things about Arnold in the way that he deals with things. I've only heard that they're backing him. So I'd still want to see how that pans out. And I don't necessarily, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ratcliffe can come in and have his own ideas anyway and replace them. But at this early stage, not necessarily because they've done a bad job. And I think it's a bit unfair. I mean, if we're going to be objective and balanced about it and be completely fair, I don't think it's completely fair to dig in on them straight away just because of the owners.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's as black and white as social media makes it out to be. I think they're just the lambs to the slaughter right now. And at the end of the day, I think it's all falls back to the Glazers. We're all quick to point the finger at them when certain things go wrong. But they, at the end of the day, those, Arnold and Murta, they're employees. That's what they are. Everything is controlled at the top. We heard it from Van Gaal. We've heard it from Moyes. We heard it from Mourinho. We've heard it from. We haven't really heard from Solskjaer, but he made hints near the end. Everything is a circus at the top, and it doesn't matter who you put in between the middle there. If their hands are tied, their hands are tied. Now, I'm by no means standing up for either of the two. I think there's certain things that we have done wrong, but if you work in any workforce or any work environment, and your boss is completely micromanaging everything, but he's throwing you out there as the face of the company, you're going to get slaughtered. I do believe, though, once they go, and I hope this is the beginning of the end, you know what, Wayne, you could write a book on this, write many books on this. The stories that will come out of Manchester United once these guys go, they're going to blow us away. We think it's crazy now. I will guarantee you we will be dumbfounded by how they actually had this club for the past 17 years and the things that they did. And we'll have a lot of supporters out there. I honestly believe we'll have a lot of regrets and a lot of things that they'll be taking down off social media, because I honestly believe that these two guys have their hands handcuffed. They really do. They're just, I don't believe they could be as complacent as it's looking. There's absolutely no way. And it's not just now. It's always been like this. Ed Woodward was the same guy. He got thrown lambs to the slaughter. Again, I'm not backing Ed. I think he was way out of his depth. I think they hired the wrong man there. He was a numbers man, and that helped them. But these two guys are football people. That's what we're told they are. They get it. I honestly believe that if Jim Ratcliffe comes in, we'll and we learn the full extent of the problems that was at the top, and we're gonna actually backtrack a lot.
Yeah. Gavin says Sir Dave Brailsford's name's been mentioned as well. Yeah, no, I've heard that is attached to the Ratcliffe project, isn't it? So Will mentions this as a good comment, and I think this is a really good point to make. If it happens, it's relief on two counts: getting rid of the Glazers, and most significantly, not being sold to a state as a sports washing project. And I think whenever any United fan has been faced with this, that's been like better the devil in a way. Like, and I'm not saying that the Glazers or the current ownership or the sponsors that we've got, that there isn't, that it's completely clean and uncomplicated. But going with Ratcliffe, it does resolve that morality issue in terms of, City and Newcastle, they're playing each other this weekend, and the sort of moral gymnastics they're having to play to justify their ownership model I mean, it's difficult enough being a football fan in this day and age. And, like, what I try and do. It's the same with my writing. I just try and concentrate on the football, but sooner or later you do get dragged into it. And it's a fair discussion to have where you stand with that. But it does solve that for us as well, which in a way for your supporter experience is actually more significant than it first appears, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's just one of those boxes we don't have to tick, that we don't have to, kind of silently say who our owners are. It's for all the crap we've had to putting up with over the past, since I mean, I know they've been there 17 years, but we've had some good years, not because of them, but because we had the greatest manager ever to walk the earth. So we definitely deserve it for what we've had to endure since they came in. We all know, and you've said this many times, they never put a dime of their own money into this club. To get bought by someone that's not deemed to be sports washing, I mean, it's what a double celebration. It really is. It really is. Because I know a lot of fans were sitting on the fence about a consortium coming in from Saudi Arabia or places like that. The whole sport washing thing comes into it again, and you just said it earlier on, better the devil versus what we don't know. So I just yeah, it's the best case scenario. It really is. It's John O'Shea in the 89th minute scoring in the Kop at Anfield. That's what it is. And we won't know how to celebrate either, because we haven't celebrated in so long. So
yeah, Shamoon, you've put a great question up there, and I'm going to come to it in a minute. I'm just popping it up there so I don't forget. But I want to get back to the net worth thing, because the news obviously was in response to the claims that the Glazers were considering selling this minority stake. But then Ratcliffe came out, and the spokesperson has intimated that he'd be seeking full ownership. And like you said earlier, his net worth is between 13 and 14 billion pound. Everyone was getting excited about Elon Musk because his alleged net worth is over 200 billion, and they say, oh, well, all that money that's there, blah, 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 blah. But the fact of the matter is, most of us as United fans really don't want that. That's not what the point is. It's about having the club standing on its own 2 feet and doing what it can do. Because you know that regardless, even if they couldn't do that, even if they couldn't compete at an elite level by standing on its own 2 feet, at least they're doing it in the honest way by itself, and they're not being handicapped, not being anything taken away from them. But the fact of the matter is, United can compete at an elite level with infrastructure and all of that if they're allowed to spend the finances that they're generating themselves. And I don't care what anyone else says, really. That to me is the most important thing. It's not about being able to spend an extra 4 billion on transfers. It's about allowing United to stand on its own 2 feet again, because once it can do that, it can compete. And then if they can't compete, then you look at different arguments and you're having a different conversation, because that's football. But at least they're doing that, spending their own money, and they're, like freely being able to do that. And I think, Dave, for so long, then I could get into a conversation with saying, oh, they've wasted $1 billion in transfer fees, because then you're having a completely different conversation. And you're talking about wastage in terms of, instead of saying, well, you're talking about the context of backing a manager in one transfer window and not allowing him to do what he needs to do in the next transfer window, and then that undermining the old control of the squad. People don't understand the consequential issues this has on football management. They just look at the end result, which is £1 billion spent, and United are far further away from challenging than they have been at any time since Ferguson retired. But that's not the point for us, is it? The point is that even if we're in that position in 10 years, at least we're doing it by ourselves, right?
Yeah, and I think for me, I think personally, I think any takeover bid and control of the club and the running of the club, I think it should definitely involve David Gill. I was always a big fan of David Gill. I know there was a great partnership between him and Fergie. Obviously, David Gill, didn't hang around too long when the Glazers came in, because, in my own personal assessment, is I don't think he liked what was going on at the club. But I know David Gill is around at the club a lot. I know he has had, a seat with UEFA. But you pointed out to the fact that we should be standing on our own 2 feet. When David Gill was running Manchester United, that's when the club was being run properly. It really was. That's when all the development happened. That's when Carrington came along. That's when, and I know, don't get me wrong, Ferguson, obviously assisted in that with on the field success. But I think David Gill is the man to control Manchester United. I'm not sure whether Jim Ratcliffe is. I mean, yeah, he can be a obviously the backer and stuff like that. But Roman Abramovich, he bought Chelsea, he owned Chelsea, he didn't run it. And from what I understand, I don't think he got heavily involved in a lot of the stuff. And that's the best owner to have. Now, I'm not saying Roman Abramovich is the best owner to have because of obviously the current situation with obviously with Russia and the Ukraine and his involvement in that. But the point I'm trying to make is that the way he ran that business is the way Manchester United should be run, and that is that you have an independent owner who doesn't get heavily involved in the club, and David Gill for me will be that guy.
Yeah, David, I presume that's not you. Giving you Sunday name. If this story is true, and thank God it is, how soon do you see it happening? One that drags on and on, perhaps. It's difficult to say that, isn't it? It depends on if the Glazers just make a statement saying, "Show me the colour of your money," and it's their club. They can. I know there's a percentage of it that they've already sold shares on, but I mean that'd be a formality considering they own the majority.
As long as we don't put the person that's in charge of transfers part of this whole process, we should have it done by 2027. It is a good question, but these teams tend not to drag on. They really don't, because stock prices get affected. Investors get scared off. If this is going to happen, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, I believe, in two ways. The first way is someone's going to buy a small minority of the club the way it's being touted, and then they're slowly going to start getting into that, of buying the whole club.
The way that the Glazers did it.
Exactly. But that was still pretty quick, though, in terms of buying a club. Or it's going to be like you just said, if they say, you know what, we're not interested in a partial buy here, we want out, show me the colour of your money. And that will happen fast. Due diligence will be done really, really quickly. And there won't be a lot to hide at a club like Manchester United in regard to, any skeletons in the closet. I mean, due diligence on a regular company takes a long time. I have been involved in that type of process. It does take a long time. But at a football club, it's a public traded company. There's a lot of stuff that has to be divulged right out of the gate. And that kind of answers 80 to 90% of the questions. I do think if it's going to happen, it'll happen fast.
Yeah. Callum says, doesn't Ratcliffe currently own or have some part of Nice? Yeah, I think that it doesn't really matter.
The biscuit or the club?
Yeah, maybe not the biscuits. Even if Ratcliffe comes in and wipes the debt, there'll be so much cash flow we will be able to stand on our own for sure. He will also hire a top class director of football. I mean, we don't. That's the thing. We don't know that side.
Speculation.
You would hope so, but the fact is that the club would be in a better position to afford to make that mistake because it wouldn't be wastage, and that's the point. And Harry says it wasn't the Glazers on billion. No, of course it wasn't. No, that's the point. Paul says it will definitely take time, but hopefully the beginning of the end, back to being a club and not a business. Well, unfortunately, Paul, probably always a business. You can't get away
I don't
from.
think there's. I mean, the answer to that question is it will never be a club again, and no team in the Premier League will ever be a club again. It'll be a business first, and it'll always be a club second. The club will only survive with the business because of the vast amount of money that we pay players and that people are paid. It has to be a business first, unfortunately. It really does. Without the business, you don't have the club. We can romanticize about it being a club again. Unfortunately, those days ended in 1992.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I mean, it depends. Again, it's how you as a spectator, as a supporter, how you separate the two. You can do it. Right. I've done it. Do you know what I mean? If you define your supporter experience by what the team does and try not to concern yourself. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to do, but it's the best way.
But in those general terms, as a football club, when we go back to the 70s and 80s and stuff like that, we'll never get back to that where, club and support kind of went hand in hand. nowadays, we all know at the end of the day, most of us are deemed customers. That's what we are.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. You know, I made my peace with that a very, very long time ago. The only thing that I would love to see, and I can see the traction building here, is we should definitely put football club back on that crest.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think that probably would be something you would see a symbolic gesture like that from anyone who comes in, and that would be one of the major demands that would be made.
You want to get that. You want to get out. Listen, whoever comes in and buys this club is going to get 100% of the support. But if you go back and you say another thing, we're going to now be called Manchester United Football Club, I think you have about 4 years of making mistakes before social media turns on you.
Yeah, Dave has literally just said that first thing. So it must be you, Dave, who said that.
Yeah, I'm typing here under David. My secret.
Callum, I'm trying not to get too excited about this. It's the most promising thing I've heard in years. Can see the Glazers wanting to leave the debt behind rather than clearing it with the proceeds of the sale could lead to tough, protracted negotiations. Perhaps you would think a negotiation.
The debt is bought with it. That's the unfortunate part. You buy the debt with the club.
You would also have a situation with Ratcliffe where he would be prepared for that situation either way, wouldn't he? Do you know what I mean? He'd be. I don't think they're going to. I don't think we're going to get a situation whereby we're going to spend $6 million on the club and also another $1 billion. You know, he takes the debt on top of that. You know, in cases like these, it's always been that the debt is factored in. That's why Chelsea was sold for $4 billion, and the debt is factored in there. You know. Okay. Let's keep getting your questions and comments in. I'm just going to come to a couple of the non-Ratcliffe stuff because we've got a few things to talk about very, very quickly. We should probably dedicate a different podcast to this, Dave, but it happened today. The confirmation that Jimmy Murphy's statue is going to be commissioned at the Stretford end, outside the Stretford end on a special plinth. They're going to put it at sort of same elevation as the Busby and Fergie statues, and it's going to be there, designed by the same guy who designed that great Dennis Lowe statue last year. We all knew that it was coming. It's probably going to be end of the season when it's officially unveiled. They're going to try and find an appropriate time for it very quickly, more quickly than what the justice that is deserved by it. It is really a great, I suppose, a great day to announce it, but just a great thing nonetheless, right? That we're finally going to see when this process has finally come to an end, because it's been a long time in the making.
100%. You know, the club hasn't got many things right over the past 17 years. We all know that. We could dedicate a day's show to that, let alone like an hour. And I don't want to throw too much kudos their way, but they got this one right. You know, this is a long time coming, Wayne. You know, we've had a lot of people in that boardroom before these guys, and these guys they're getting it done, and I'm you know, obviously delighted to see it. It's long overdue. We all know that. But you know, I know you've said many times in the past he's the most important man in Manchester United's history. You know, there's people that will say, well, you know, Fergie is, or you know, Gibson is, or whoever. But I think Jimmy Murphy is right up there. And of all the people that deserve a statue at Manchester United, you know, just for, let alone for what he did in the weeks and months after Munich, it's long overdue. And you know, many different factions of the support base were involved in this. You know, there was definitely a lot of groups, a lot of people involved in this. And you know, kudos to everyone for keeping it going. I know you brought out a fantastic book on Jimmy Murphy, and you know, that does lay some of the foundation to why this is happening, because it kept it in the news, it kept it out there, it kept it amongst the support base, and it educated a lot of our supporters that probably heard the name Jimmy Murphy but never really knew, you know, who Jimmy Murphy really was. And that's no slant on him. You know, this was 60, 70 years ago. So, yeah, I think it's an absolutely fantastic day. We've had one great bit of good news, which is Jimmy Murphy, and then obviously we have that that situation whereby when I was 11, 12 years old, you know, just trying to look in the shed to see if my parents got me that bike for Christmas. You know, all I can see is this shape and a big blanket over it. I don't know what's under it, but I'm hoping.
On Paul Parker and Rafa Day as well. Can you believe it?
By the way, it was a lawnmower. So.
Ben says superb. Can't wait to see that statue. Richard can't believe it's taken this long to have the statue sculpted for Jimmy. And Ben says, well said, Dave. Yeah. So I want to get to the comment from Shamoon about this. If the Glazers are selling and decide not to put money in for new signings between now and 1st of September, could United absurdly be dragged into a relegation battle? It's a very interesting conversation, and it really speaks to the confidence level in the squad at the moment, because we know that they're better than what they're showing, and the pressure is so great on them at the moment that even you can tell it's affecting the decision making. I don't think it serves any purpose consistently tearing the players apart, because I don't necessarily think it's like their fault if they're not good enough to play for Manchester United, and better players than them have probably failed to handle the pressure at certain moments as well. So it's just a massive collective thing at the moment where every single player is under pressure. Every single player is facing that accusation of you're not good enough to play for the club for different reasons. But I'll put it to you, Dave. Do you think that United could be in a relegation battle if they're dealing with this squad by September 1st?
I don't. I honestly don't. And I know that old saying, too good to go down. I mean, I think you may have mentioned that once or twice. Do you have a book out about that? And we look at the time Forest got relegated. I remember back then I was laughing, going, Forest are never going to get relegated. Too big for that. And Manchester United too big to go down. Well, we're not. And I don't believe we're going to be relegated. I honestly don't. I really don't. I think this. It hasn't been a great start to the season by any shake of the stick. We conceded 6 goals. An own goal of VAR, whoever you want to give that single goal to. We haven't scored a goal really, have we? I don't think we'll get. No, we won't even be in a relegation battle. I just think I still think the players are trying to adjust to how Ten Hag wants to play. Ten Hag has a history of taking time to get his players to buy into his way of thinking. No, I don't think we'll be in a relegation battle. Not at all. Not at all.
Ronaldo says he's soon going to reveal the truth about his future after reading many lies.
Well, why don't you reveal it now? Stop with this in 3 weeks' time. I'm going to tell everybody. Quit the bullshit. Come out and tell us what's going on. Do you want to leave? Leave. Why wait 3 weeks? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And well, you know why it's 3 weeks, because then the transfer window goes and he was always going to stay at United or he's not. Do you know what I mean? God only knows.
If he says on the 1st of September, I was always going to stay, well, then why didn't you say that on the 1st of August? Yeah. We know you want out. You know what I mean? We definitely know you want out. And, I'm so disappointed that it's torn sour with him. For me, top 3 greatest players ever to play the game. Really was. And having him back last year, I mean, it gave the club such a lift. It gave the supporters such a lift. He scored 20-odd goals. It just shows that money talks and players will walk. They will. Do I to get into the whole Ronaldo thing, he's 37. He still can offer a lot. He's had such a fantastic career. Do you really blame him for wanting to finish off his career on a high? I don't, but what I do criticize him about is the way he went about it. We knew last April and last May we were going to be in the Europa League. Why did it take till the end of July for him to realise it? Some are saying that, well, he was waiting to see what signings we have. Has he seen our transfer, the way we conduct transfer business? He should have waited till August 31st, and went and sat in the parking lot of Stoke or whatever waiting for that transfer. I don't know. I just, it's disappointing that Ronaldo has come out with that bullshit right in the middle of all this. It's dangling that carrot out. So sorry for getting sidetracked there, but no. I don't think we'll be relegated, and I'm deeply disappointed in Ronaldo.
Yeah, and Callum says maybe some players aren't good enough to play for United. When you compare them to title-winning sides, not many players would be not for sure much better than they're showing We finished second 2 years ago. You're absolutely right. Not disagreeing with that. I think that's a very, very fair comment to make, and it's one that I've made a couple of times, so definitely agree with that.
To follow on from that, though, we laughed at Jose Mourinho when he said one of his biggest successes was finishing second in that season. And if we kind of read between the lines there, we all know what I kind of assume what Jose meant was not just with the squad, but with the club the way it was. And people are I think people miss that part of it, is that his working conditions were absolutely atrocious. Every manager has said that has left the club. Jurgen Klopp's wife, came out and said that when United spoke to him, they spoke to him like it was Disneyland, and that speaks volumes, So I think in that case, it's just one of the it's basically just one of those things where I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into it. Sorry.
No, David says Ronaldo will tell us in 3 weeks when he's at a new club. I think he'll slag off the Glazers once gone to help keep his legacy. Yeah, it's all politics. It's all politics. Look, a comment from Nashawan. I hope I pronounced that right. Sorry, I butchered it. I'm tired. I've been up since 5:30 when Elon Musk was Man United owner. Says Glazers are in talks to sell minority stakes to USP firm Apollo. Justin, don't know anything about that, so I'll reserve the right to comment on a later point. But that was always the talk earlier in the day, anyway, that they were selling off this minority stake, which is reportedly what provokes the comment from Jim Ratcliffe's Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who may become the second Jimmy to get a statue on Trafford. The way this is going, I think we'll commission that statue if it goes this way. Callum, I also think the competition is so hard now with other teams improved. Yeah, I mean, it's getting harder. It's getting a tougher league. Not necessarily I don't think in terms of quality over the entire league, but the marginal differences between the sides at the moment is pretty tough. One last thing before we go, Davo. The question nobody wants us to sort of address: what if they don't sell? What happens next from this point?
Well, there's a high possibility of them not selling at the end of the day. It's a cash cow for them. They can still squeeze another 10 years out of this club. Make no mistake about that. They really can. But will those dividends start to slide over the next 5-6 years? I believe so. I really do. So that's why I said, at the very beginning, we're at a pivotal time now. Do they should I get off the pot? Excuse my language, but that's it. They're at this junction now where it's starting to take the on-field mishaps of the past 9 years are now starting to take effect off the field. And if I had a time machine, I could go back to 2013, 2014, where I had this conversation where people are like, once Fergie goes, blah, 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 the guys will sell. And I recall myself telling people that it's not going to happen overnight where we're going to lose credibility, in the corporate world as a business. It takes a very, very long time for that to happen. And it seems like it's taken 9 years. These guys are not stupid. They're businessmen. That's what they do. We're at that junction right now where they have the decision is real right now. It never wasn't before. Do we sell now to get the best out of this, or do we hold? And they know that if they hold, in order to keep the amount of value in Manchester United, they're going to have to spend. So I don't believe that they will spend. Yeah. Not to the volumes that we need to actually to get to start climbing back up that table and to start winning in Europe and stuff like that. But I think it is a very pivotal time. I think if they don't sell now, I don't know when they're going to sell. Yeah. This is the prime to sell right now. We're at a price where it's at a tipping point that it's going to start tumbling back down. Because like I said, a lot of these deals, sponsorship deals with Adidas and companies like that, are all built on performance. And, I obviously haven't read the Adidas contract, but for what I'm reading from journalists online is that if Manchester United do not make it for the second year in a row for the Adidas, 30% comes off the overall, and something like 27-30 million gets wiped off it. These greedy people are not going to let 30 million slip through their hands. They'd rather just sell the club. And like I said, they're going to sell it, and think about it. they're going to get, let's say, I don't know, they get 5 billion for it. By the time they pay taxes and everything on that, whatever, they're probably going to clear 2 to 3 billion for something they never spent a penny on.
Yeah, and for something that if they own for the next 20 years, they're not going to see.
They'll never get them, and that's what I'm saying is that it's starting to take a dive. It did take 9-10 years, and I don't think anyone would have predicted back then that this would happen. There would be, there'd be up and down. Every club, every team has their up and downs. We all know that. Some can last for 5 years, some can last for 26 years, like ours in the past. In Liverpool's case, 30 years.
Yeah.
But it comes up and it goes back down. I think we're at a point now whereby if they don't sell now, it could be a very long time before they do sell.
Yeah. And Ben says in a takeover that wouldn't be allowed now. Yeah, that's a great point. Not spent the money and took money out of. Yeah. Paul says, so much uncertainty about every aspect of United at the moment. Imagine a shock win against Liverpool and the potential sale, growing legs. You can always hope. Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's what we're here for, right? We've got to hope.
Hope is all we have. That's all we have, Paul. We only have hope.
And now Shawan, who is providing the news updates on the podcast, please watch regularly now, Shawan. This would be really good to have on as a regular feature. So long as we can sell that it's credible reporting, it really helps our notes here. He says it's being reported as a Daily Mail exclusive now that some of the Glazers want to sell. We know that for years that some of them would like to. Avram and Joel are still in though, so let's see. Comes back to what we were just saying about the potential for cashing in now against the long term, what they project to come in. Do you know what I mean? If you got an asset, is it worth cashing in rather than hanging on for 150 million, 250 million in dividends over 20 years? Do you know? And that's with things staying as they are, and United's value not decreasing, which it's only likely to do if.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but Manchester United is the reason why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't really have much financial problems, because Manchester United is leveraged as an asset against anything they do in the US, and that will factor in it heavily with their decision. Hence the reason why 2 of the brothers don't want to sell. And we all know, and I've heard it over here regularly, that the Glazers, part of the family does want to sell. They wanted to sell when, not long after the father moved on, because he was the one that was kind of keeping it together. Manchester United is an asset to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's not forget that. And that's another part of this, crazy decision that they have to make, is that they don't have that leverage anymore. They really don't. I mean, I'm open to them buying Liverpool with the money they get from United. I'm perfectly okay with that. And so that's where they want to spend their money. They can go down and, maybe buy those little scallies and have some fun time down there, But yeah, I just, it's, I don't want to get my hopes up, but it's a better day today than it was yesterday, with Elon Musk coming in and buying the club and then selling it instantly. That's not a good look. So maybe Jim Ratcliffe is thinking, what's really gone wrong in that place? I mean, he only had the club for 6 hours. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting few days for United on and off the pitch. It'd be interesting to see what the response is with.
I got a question for you then, Wayne. We have the game obviously coming up on Monday, which I assume you and your wife are going to head to. Do you think today's news intensifies what's going to happen on Monday? I just want to get it out there. I have absolutely no problems with supporters protesting and peaceful protesting and doing a walkout and stuff like that. I do have an issue with fans getting games called off. I really do. I don't think that does anyone any good. You and I have had this discussion in the past what Manchester United means to people. It means different things to different people. It means different things to generations of families. If we're going to protest. We're the biggest club in the world. Trust me, it's the biggest. I'll argue with anyone. It's the biggest club game in the world. You can have your Barças and your Reals, and you can have your Inter and AC Milan. Manchester United versus Liverpool is the biggest club football game in the world. Yeah. The eyes of the world are going to be on it anyway.
Yeah.
Protest all you want. But this call to arms of getting the game called off, I 100% don't agree. I really don't. I don't think it's fair. People should have a choice, and you shouldn't force them into that choice.
Yeah.
If you want to walk out. That will have a bigger impact globally than getting the game called off, because we've had a game called off. It didn't really do much.
Yeah.
To empty a stadium on 58 minutes, or to empty it on 75 minutes, or whenever, that will have a bigger impact than actually getting the game cancelled, because the game's going to happen regardless the following week or whatever. But walking out 20-25 minutes to go,
Yeah.
I mean, it happens at City's ground every week, doesn't? Oh well, no, they don't fill it. I'm sorry, but that to me is my own personal opinion on this. Protest. You want to get the megastar shut down? Go ahead, do all that. But I don't think getting the game called off is the right way. It will create a split between the United fan base. It really will, and that's not what it's for. Protest, walk out. I 100% agree with that. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Everyone just walks out after even 45 minutes. The cameras come back on. There's freaking no one in there except a bunch of Scousers.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the news that would make, rather than having the game called off? I just don't agree with it.
No, yeah, I do.
So I'm sorry. I asked you a question and I answered it. Do you think that with the news today, and with Elon Musk buying and pulling out, and now Jim Ratcliffe coming in, shaking it all about, do you think that's going to? Sorry about that. Do you think that's going to intensify what's going to happen on Monday night?
I don't know. Everything's so unpredictable at the moment. I don't know. I know a lot of people don't agree with MUST. I did agree with the nature of what they've said in I think it was the most recent statement, where it's basically they support people's rights to protest, but they're not going to judge or tell supporters what to do, because obviously, people have their own reasons for going to games. You're connecting with different people, you're connecting with your families and stuff like that. You go in there for emotional reasons as well. There are a lot of reasons for why you would go, and I would never.
Yep.
And this goes way back to the green and gold stuff. Like, you don't judge people for what they do. Don't judge people if they want to go in the mega stuff or something. Back in the day, I would probably have said don't buy the new shirt and wear the green and gold scarf, because all those kind of things do send out contradictory messages. But now I'm a bit more like laid back about stuff like that, because these are all
older and wiser.
Yeah, well, or just
older.
More of a hypocrite, and less, more understanding of my hypocritical ways, and knowing that we all are really in the way that we see things.
Yeah,
we're all hypocritical. We all want to do things that justify our own way of doing things. So
yeah.
I completely agree with someone's right to do the thing that they think is right in this situation. It's very difficult, because you're absolutely right. A mass walkout, a coordinated thing like this is could have a big effect, and you don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of days. Whether talk of a sale accelerates, obviously something like this isn't going to be done. It's not being done by Ratcliffe to dampen speculation about the protest. Nishan puts a comment in here, is the noise about Casemiro all an attempted distraction from the Ratcliffe news? I don't think it is, because I think the Casemiro stuff was leaking before. I remember I was doing something this afternoon and I saw the Casemiro stuff, and then I was off Twitter for a few hours, and then when I logged back on, all this came up about Ratcliffe. So I just think that's transfer market nonsense. And
I think Casemiro is identical to Ramos all those years ago. He's looking for the new deal. He's looking for reassurance in the Real. He's not coming to Manchester United. I don't personally believe. I don't. It's come right out of left field. I don't believe it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna see. I'll put it out there. I'll say exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to see what the public consensus is. They say one person wouldn't make a difference, so like one person would make a difference, all that sort of stuff. Sending out a message, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I really don't know. I will see. I'm going to be at Old Trafford. I'll be there in the vicinity and see what happens and see what the mood is and how it takes. Because you don't know what's going to happen between now and then as well. It's a long time. It's still 5 days for a lot of things to happen. but I'll be around the stadium, right? Rory, I see him every game day. He says we'll still get our chicken though, right?
Only white chicken though. No legs,
Yeah.
no toys. Wayne's a bit of a breast man.
On that note,
well, on the final note, I do have one last question. Now that you have this, new hairstyle, and many times where people asking you to sign the Amsterdam jerseys and T-shirts over the past few weeks at Old Trafford.
Just one, and I sent it to you as a birthday present.
Yeah, I have it hanging on my wall here. Thanks. I was like, "Who's Yap Barton?" I mean, what?
Yeah, whoops, crossed it out.
Yeah, crossed it out. No, I appreciate you inviting me on, Wayne. I obviously want to do a little bit more of this. Work has me really busy. Kids are back at school now, so they're the government's problem now. So I have a little bit more time in my hands. So I'd love to get back on. I really enjoy this. We look for glimmers of hope in a disastrous period of Manchester United. This is, like I said, I'm not going to get too excited, but it's better than a normal news day. We're trying to buy every single player in Europe when we're back, we're not. If Jim Ratcliffe and it looks by all reliable sources, and not the guys that have been, I've been told, but I can't reveal my sources. What's happening? If you throw enough stories out there, one of them is bound to land, and that's why we see this whole social media thing. I think Manchester United being linked with over 200 players this summer. Come on, let's be real. If you're going to throw out 200 names and one sticks, don't hang your hat on that.
Yeah.
Hang your hat on the 199 you got wrong. But yeah, I just I'm hopeful. And I think Rory or Ben, one of those guys, mentioned it earlier. I think it was Rory said that the silence coming out of Old Trafford, is deafening. They're normally quick to stamp this out. I just hope that they don't stamp it out and that they ask Jim, Sir James, show me the color of your money, and it will happen fast, I do believe, because dragging these things out won't be of any benefit to either Manchester United, the Glazers, or Jim Ratcliffe. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll get Davo back on. Try not to do it just in an emergency like this. But they don't get sold every day, even if Elon Musk makes it seem that way.
Well, we got sold twice, and I think we've had more successful buying and selling in the past 2 days than we had in our transfer market over the past couple of years. So I'll be happy with that. So.
So if you've enjoyed the podcast, please give us a like and subscribe. If you're listening back on the audio podcast, give us a review on the platform you're listening on. Keen's going to be here on Friday night with Lee and Phil to talk over probably all of this and preview Liverpool as well. So make sure you join in on that one. And I presume if anything else happens, we might just call back an emergency podcast. If Elon buys us again tomorrow, me and Dave might pop on to talk about that. I mean, you never know. We try and make these podcasts more regular and more reactive. It's not always easy due to certain things, but we were able to tonight and felt like it was a big enough topic to approach. So yeah, if you've listened back on the audio podcast, give us a review and thing. And if you watch it back on the video as well, feel free to comment. We do reply to comments after the event. That's it.
Yeah, appreciate all the questions. We got a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. So we got a lot of new faces as well popping in, and a lot of regular faces like Ben, Richard, Rory. But yeah, we definitely love coordinating this and talking with a lot of supporters there. We got a lot of very smart and intelligent supporters out there that I definitely take some stuff away from it and look at it from a different angle. The presenters may not be the smartest people in the world, but we definitely do encourage you guys to educate us a little bit more on what we should be asking. But yeah, best of luck anyway, Wayne, on Monday. I just hope that this is the beginning of the end. I really do.
Yeah. Ben says cheers, Vince. Right. That's it. Peace out. And hopefully next time we talk, Dave, we will be in the guise of new ownership. Not you or I, but Sir James steering the ship. Good ship, Manchester United. Well, no, because these things take time. I want to talk to you before then, obviously.
No. It's fine. It's fine. We can hold it. I can hold out. I know I can.
we'll leave it to them. Not that desperate to talk to each other. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll be back soon.